This time it was my first time to Xinjiang. I'm very happy to have seen it. The purpose of going there was to get an impression, a kind of general broad impression of what's happening in Xinjiang. So I'm not an expert on Xinjiang or anything like that, but I got some impressions that I wish many more people would get, because what we hear in the West about Xinjiang is totally wrong and one-sided. So we went to Kashi and Jining and Portala and Urumqi. When you say what impressed me the most, it's like asking which color do you like the most? I like all colors, right? I would say the beauty of the place, the beauty of the people, systematic mixture of ethnicities, culture, expressions. It's a very colorful place, even the textiles of the women and the dancers and things like that, and the beauty of the nature. When you listen to or see the Western media impression of Xinjiang, it sounds like it was East Germany or Czechoslovakia or something like that during the Cold War here. And I know what that was like. And it has nothing to do with that. It's a very freewheeling, it's a very safe. Everybody will say, come into my shop or have a tea or do this and that. There's a spontaneous welcoming of the visitor that warms my heart, because we come from that West, which has so much negative media coverage and so much negative political statements about China and Xinjiang. Now, there's nothing of what I have heard in the West that, in my view, were confirmed. If you talk about religious freedom, we visited a lot of mosques, but there's some information saying that there are more mosques in Xinjiang per inhabitant, per capita, than there is in Turkey. I've seen articles, for instance, in the Danish press that says that China is trying to get rid of all Muslims. What I am saying is there is no evidence that this means that whole peoples, groups, ethnicities, nationalities are being eradicated or pursued or have their lives destroyed. We have seen the opposite. We have seen how they are integrated. We have met all kinds of nationalities, ethnicities. I've been to the Grand Bazaar myself in Urumqi, where people dance with each other spontaneously in the street. If you go to a factory, we ask the question, for instance, when you employ people, do you take into account what nationality they are of? And the director tells you that, no, we don't. We look at their competence. And we are happy to give them an education also, if necessary. And I should add that it would be a very failed genocide, because the population of the Uyghurs and the population of Xinjiang has grown tremendously the last several years. If they grow millions more people than there were 20 years ago, it's not a very successful genocide, if I may express it that way. We were at two places where cotton was grown and cultivated. And at the second place, a huge field, as long as your eyes could see. We saw these, fluffy white things. And then we went to the relatively small place where this whole field was technically controlled or managed from. And it turned out that that huge field was operated by one computer and two mobile phones. There were nobody in the field. The figure we got was that between 60 and 90% of all the cotton production is actually basically without human beings. And that those who worked in these cotton fields were working in the towns today, having other jobs, but they are not in the cotton fields. Now, I'm not saying that there are no cotton fields which have human beings, because I have not seen them all. Again, I'm very conscious about saying what I've seen and what I've not seen. But if I take that particular field that we saw, I must say the only thing that is forced, if anything is forced there, is forced water, forced fertilization, forced computers. There's no forced labor because nobody was working there. So I wonder, who does the Americans want to hit? Because by this sanctions policies, you're just destroying the socioeconomic development. And that is perhaps what is the reason. Because, of course, first of all, you create a negative energy of a whole country, right, of 1,400 million people. And then secondly, you stop importing things that give an income to that country. Thereby, of course, also creates problems for those who run the economic development and development projects and socioeconomic investments. And there's just a very unkind way of behaving. Long story short, I was very pleased to go to Xinjiang and see it for myself, and I recommend everyone around the world to go there themselves. They will have a wonderful time as tourists or visitors, and they will see that there is at least another side, a completely different, very convincing side that has nothing to do with genocide or concentration camps, etc. I think it's impressive that you have chosen a socio-economic, social, psychological method to get rid of terrorism, re-educating people or whatever, giving them jobs, drawing them in and seeing that their future is better in China than fighting, for an independent state. Because the West, led by the United States, has had a global war on terror, which has killed at least 1 million people in the Middle East, different interventions, etc. And we still have the terrorist problem because the Americans chose the philosophy that we will get rid of terrorism by killing terrorists.